His hands moved toward her chest. She stopped breathing. The American soldier wasn't holding a weapon. He was holding something she'd never seen before, a metal disc attached to rubber tubes. It looked like a torture device, a listening instrument for screams. Haruki Nakamura, 21, former Army nurse from Osaka, had survived the Philippines campaign. 63 days of retreat. 11 dead patients she couldn't save. Capture came on a Tuesday morning when her unit ran out of ammunition, out of food, out of hope. Over 12,000 Japanese POWs processed in the Philippines by March 1945. Only 847 were women. She's one of them. America jin wa josei o dobutsu no yo ni atsukao. Americans treat women like animals. That's what Sergeant Instructor Yamamoto told them during capture preparation training. 6 hours of lectures. What to expect when, not if, the Americans took them. The violations, the humiliations, the slow deaths designed to maximize suffering. Yamamoto had photographs, propaganda photographs she knows now. But her body doesn't know that yet. The medical tent smells like antiseptic and canvas. Outside, boots crunch on gravel. Inside, her heart hammers so loud she's certain the American can hear it. Maybe that's what the device is for, measuring fear before they begin. Corporal Mitchell, 24, from some place called Nebraska, gestures at her chest. "Just routine," he says. She doesn't speak English, but she understands the gesture. Her training screams at her. This is how it starts. First they examine, then they select. Then they do what armies have always done to captured women since the beginning of human warfare. Beside her, Tomoko Ishida, 26, signals operator captured in the same convoy, translates in a whisper. But her Japanese makes it worse. He wants to touch your chest area. For purposes. For purposes. Haruki's knees nearly buckle. The canvas walls feel closer. The antiseptic smell turns her stomach. She looks at the metal disc approaching her body and sees every warning, every photograph, every whispered story from training. She doesn't see what it actually is, a stethoscope, standard medical equipment, used in every hospital in America to listen to heartbeats and lung function. The same device that saved her grandmother's life when doctors caught pneumonia early in 1938. But she doesn't know that word, doesn't know that purpose, doesn't know that routine means everyone receives identical treatment. Corporal Mitchell places the cold metal against her uniform, over her heart. Then he says 2 words that make everything worse. Deep breath. Deep breath. She doesn't understand English, but she understands the hand gesture, fingers spreading outward from his chest, mimicking expansion. He wants her lungs to fill. Why? What is he measuring? What happens to women whose lungs don't expand far enough? Tomoko's translation comes out fractured, terrified. He wants you to make your chest bigger. Push it toward him. The words sound worse in Japanese. Haruki's vision tunnels. Japanese military training included 6 hours of capture preparation, 6 hours describing what Americans do to female prisoners, violations cataloged in clinical detail, torture methods illustrated with diagrams, expected survival time after capture, 72 hours. After that, death would be mercy. 0 hours explaining Allied medical protocols, 0 minutes on stethoscopes, tuberculosis screenings, or the Geneva Convention requirements that mandated health examinations for all prisoners within 48 hours of capture. Kare wa watashi no mune omite iru hajimara. He's looking at my chest. It's starting. Behind her, Chiyo Watanabe, 19, the youngest in their group, starts crying. Soft sobs that shake her shoulders. She's been crying since capture, but these tears are different. These are the tears of someone who believes the nightmare is finally beginning. Corporal Mitchell frowns. He doesn't understand the crying. He's performed this examination 400 times, on men, on women, on terrified teenagers from Tokyo, and hardened sergeants from Kyoto. Same procedure, same stethoscope, same 30-second check for tuberculosis and heart abnormalities. The rubber tubing feels cold against Haruki's collarbone. She hears her own heartbeat through the device, fast, irregular, the rhythm of pure terror. Does he hear it too? Is that what he's writing down? The pencil scratches against paper. Corporal Mitchell makes notes on a clipboard. Haruki watches his hand move and sees her death warrant being drafted. Height, weight, physical condition, suitable for what purpose? Her grandmother's voice echoes from somewhere far away. Doctors listen to hearts. It's how they know if you're sick. But this isn't a doctor. This is an enemy soldier holding a metal disc to her chest in a canvas tent in the Philippines, and every second of training tells her what comes next. Mitchell moves to Tomoko. Same procedure, same 30 seconds, same pencil scratches. Then, he walks to the tent flap. That's it? Haruki's mind can't process the absence of violence. The examination took 90 seconds. Now he's leaving? But Tomoko saw what he wrote on the clipboard. Haruki watches her friend's face drain of color. What does it say? Tomoko's hands are shaking. Tomoko's hands trembled as she read the clipboard. Not names, numbers, heights recorded in centimeters, weights in kilograms, heart rates measured in beats per minute. And beside each woman's entry, a single word Tomoko didn't fully understand. Positive. She translated it the only way that made sense. Selected. The word travels through the tent, like fire through dry grass. Selected. The women know what selection means. They've heard the stories from China, from Manchuria, from the comfort stations where selected women disappeared into systems designed to break them before, killing them slowly. Tuberculosis killed more Japanese soldiers than American bullets in 1944, 34,000 deaths from a disease that spreads through coughing, through breathing, through the intimate proximity of military barracks. U.S. protocol mandated TB screening for all POWs within 48 hours. Positive results meant quarantine and treatment, not execution. But the word for tuberculosis screening doesn't exist in Tomoko's vocabulary. Medical terminology wasn't part of signals operator training. Kensaga yosei, shike no yosei ka. Test positive. Positive for execution. The logic seems inescapable. They examine the women. They measure their bodies. They write positive or negative beside each name. The positive ones disappear. The negative ones remain. It's selection. It's always been selection. Outside, boots continue crunching on gravel. Inside, the antiseptic smell mixes with fear, sweat, and canvas. Haruki watches Chiyo drop to her knees, hands pressed together, praying, not for survival, but for death before selection. A quick death. A merciful death. Anything but what the training prepared them for. Why is Chiyo's form different? Haruki asks. Tomoko looks at the youngest woman's paperwork. Different marks, different notations. The word anemia, handwritten in the margin, which Tomoko translates as blood deficiency requiring special processing. Special processing, the phrase lands like a grenade. They're separating her, Tomoko whispers. Different category. Chiyo hears. Her prayers become more desperate. 19 years old, joined the military to escape an arranged marriage in Nagasaki. Survived 3 months of combat. Now facing special processing because an American wrote marks she doesn't understand on paper she can't read. The tent flap rustles. All 12 women freeze. Footsteps approach, lighter than Corporal Mitchell's boots. Different rhythm, the canvas parts. A woman walks in, American uniform, medical armband. And she's smiling. In their world built on 6 hours of training and a lifetime of propaganda, a smiling American woman means only one thing. She's here to help them prepare, to make the process easier, to ensure they don't fight back. She was American. She was smiling. In their world, that meant only one thing: facilitator. The woman sent to calm livestock before slaughter. Every training lecture mentioned this role, the soft approach before the hard reality. Female collaborators who spoke gently while leading captured women toward rooms they would never leave. Then she opened her mouth. and spoke perfect Japanese. "My name is Lieutenant Grace Yamamoto. I'm here to explain what just happened." The name hits like a shockwave. Yamamoto, Japanese surname, American uniform. The combination doesn't compute. Over 6,000 Nisei, second-generation Japanese Americans, served in U.S. military medical corps during the war. Grace's parents immigrated from Hiroshima in 1912. Her family currently lives in Manzanar, California, not in a house, in an internment camp, imprisoned by the same government that trusts their daughter to heal its enemies. Naze kanojo wa watashi tachi o tasukeru no. Kanojo wa nihonjin da. Why is she helping us? She's Japanese. Grace reads the terror in their faces. She's seen it before, 400 times in the past 6 months. Every group of female POWs arrives with the same expression, the same conviction that examination means violation, the same inability to comprehend that routine means identical treatment for everyone. That device, Grace says, pointing at the stethoscope on the table, is called a stethoscope. It listens to your heart, that's all. The Americans use it on their own soldiers, their own families, their own children. The words don't penetrate immediately. Haruki stares at the metal disc, cold, clinical, terrifying, and tries to reconcile it with the phrase, their own children. The examination you received is called tuberculosis screening. It's required for every prisoner, every single one, men and women, officers and privates. But the list, Tomoko interrupts, the positive marks, the selection. Grace's expression shifts. Understanding dawns. Positive means you might have a lung disease. It means you need medicine. It means they'll give you treatment, food, rest. Negative means you're healthy. Her voice catches on the word healthy. That's what they do here. They check if you're sick, then they try to make you better. The canvas walls feel suddenly thinner. The antiseptic smell transforms from threat to promise. But 17 years of cultural conditioning don't dissolve in 30 seconds. Chio looks up from her prayers. Special processing? Grace finds her form, reads the notation. Anemia, low iron in your blood. Special processing means extra food, vitamins, supplements to make you stronger. Chio blinks. Grace does something unexpected. She pulls down her own collar. Grace placed the stethoscope earpieces in Haruki's ears, then pressed the metal disc against her own chest. "Listen," she said. "This is what he heard. Thump, thump, thump. A heartbeat. Just a heartbeat." The same rhythm Haruki felt in her own chest during the examination, the same sound her grandmother described when explaining how doctors saved her life from pneumonia in 1938. The stethoscope wasn't a torture device. It was a listening tool. The American medic wasn't measuring her fear. He was checking if her lungs were damaged. Tomoko's mistranslation echoes in the silence. "He wants you to make your chest bigger." He wanted her to inhale deeply. So the stethoscope could hear if her lungs were clear. Standard medical procedure, performed billions of times in hospitals worldwide. Standard U.S. POW intake required 47 minutes of medical screening, items checked: tuberculosis, heart disease, malnutrition, wounds, dental problems. Japanese equivalent for captured. Americans? 2 words, classification and disposal. Watashi tachi wa kanja data no? We were patients? The word sounds foreign in Haruki's mouth. Patients receive treatment. Patients receive care. Patients are people whose survival matters to the institution holding them. Prisoners are commodities, resources, bodies to be processed or disposed. She was treated as a patient. Grace explains each checkbox on the examination form. Height and weight determine food rations. Larger prisoners receive more calories. Heart rate indicates stress levels and underlying conditions requiring monitoring. The tuberculosis test identifies infectious diseases that could spread through barracks. "Chio's different marks," Haruki asks. "You said anemia." Grace nods. Low iron, common in women, especially after months of poor nutrition. The treatment is simple: iron supplements. extra protein in meals, weekly blood tests to monitor improvement. Chio hasn't stopped staring since Grace explained special processing. They're going to feed me more because I'm sick, because you need it. The logic inverts everything. In the Imperial Japanese Army, sick soldiers received less, fewer rations, fewer supplies, fewer reasons to keep them alive. Weakness was failure. Illness was shame. Medical care was allocated by utility, and female signals operators had utility quotients near zero. Here, the sickest prisoners receive the most attention. Haruki removes the stethoscope earpieces. The heartbeat fades. Her hands are shaking, but differently now. Not fear tremors, processing tremors. The vibration of a worldview being rewritten in real time. "I understand," she says slowly, but she can't finish the sentence. Understanding didn't erase what she felt in that moment. The terror, the certainty, the absolute conviction that his hands moving toward her chest meant the beginning of something unbearable. That night, Haruki couldn't stop shaking. She knew it was a medical exam. Her body didn't care. It remembered the fear. Night in the POW barracks. Wooden bunks stacked 3 high. The smell of disinfectant and wool blankets. 12 women breathing in darkness, some sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks, some crying softly into military-issue pillows. Haruki lies awake on the middle bunk, replaying the moment in endless loop. The hand approaching, the cold metal, the words she didn't understand. Just routine. 2 syllables that meant nothing and everything simultaneously. 91% of Japanese female POWs reported extreme fear during initial medical contact with Allied forces. Average time required to trust American medics, 3 to 4 weeks of consistent, non-threatening interactions. Some women never achieved that trust. They died still believing the stethoscope was somehow hurting them. Karada wa mada oboete iru, noto wa wasurete mo. The body still remembers, even when the mind forgets. Tomoko sits beside her in the darkness, doesn't speak, just exists. 2 women who survived capture together, sitting in silence, because language cannot contain what they're processing. The wooden boards creak as someone shifts position. Outside, American guards walk their patrol routes, boots on gravel, flashlight beams sweeping across windows, routine sounds that still trigger survival reflexes in women trained to fear every American footstep. "You're not sleeping either." The voice comes from the top bunk. Masako Endo, 34, former schoolteacher from Sendai, oldest woman in their group. She climbed through the military ranks because teaching positions disappeared when male teachers went to war. "How could I sleep?" Haruki whispers. Masako's silhouette appears at the bunk's edge, climbing down with the practiced efficiency of someone who slept in worse places than this. "I noticed something during the examination," Masako says. "You panicked." Tomoko panicked. Chio collapsed entirely. "And you didn't." The observation hangs in the darkness. "No." Masako's voice carries something Haruki can't identify. Guilt? Resignation? "I didn't panic because I've seen worse." Worse than capture? Worse than Americans? The words don't make sense. What could be worse than enemy hands approaching your chest? What could prepare someone so thoroughly that a medical examination, even one misunderstood as assault, barely registers as threat? Masako sits on the floor, back against the bunk frame. The wool blanket around her shoulders is American-issued, another enemy kindness she can't fully process. "You want to know why I wasn't afraid?" Haruki nods in the darkness. "Let me tell you about Manchuria." "In Manchuria," Masako said, "we did the examinations, on them." The darkness in the barracks seems to deepen. Outside, a guard's footsteps pass the window. Inside, nobody breathes. "Before teaching, I worked as a nursing assistant, military hospital, Harbin, 1942 to 1943. Masako's voice stays flat. "Clinical. We called it medical research. The Army called it advancing scientific knowledge. The prisoners called it nothing because dead people don't speak. Unit 731. The name surfaces in Haruki's memory like a corpse floating up from deep water. Rumors, whispers, stories nobody confirmed because confirming them meant admitting what Japan had become. Estimated deaths from Japanese medical experiments, 3,000 to 12,000 prisoners. Chinese, Russian, American, Korean, men, women, children. Vivisected without anesthesia. Infected with diseases to study progression. Frozen, burned, pressurized, all in the name of research. U.S. POW mortality under Japanese custody, 27%. Japanese POW mortality under U.S. custody, under 1%. Watashi tachi ga okonata koto, karera wa shiranai no ka? What we did to them, they don't know? I wasn't Unit 731, Masako clarifies quickly, too quickly. Regular hospital, treatment facility. But I saw the transfers, the prisoners who arrived healthy and left as specimens, the doctors who talked about subjects instead of patients. She pulls the American blanket tighter around her shoulders. When the Americans captured me, I expected justice, revenge. They had every right to treat me exactly as we treated them, eye for eye, experiment for experiment. Her voice finally cracks. Instead, a medic put a stethoscope to my chest and said, "Just routine, same words, same procedure, same 30 seconds for me as for every other prisoner." He didn't know what we did in Manchuria, didn't know what Japan called medicine. The wool blanket rustles as she adjusts it. Or maybe he did know. Maybe that's why he was so gentle. Proving something, demonstrating something, showing that American routine means something different than Japanese routine. Footsteps approach the barracks door. All the women tense, old reflexes, permanent damage. The door opens, a silhouette in the frame, Lieutenant Grace Yamamoto. She's not smiling now. "I heard," Grace says quietly. "I was checking the perimeter. The walls are thin." Masako doesn't look up. "Then you know what I am." "I know what you did." "Same thing." Grace steps inside. Her boots echo on the wooden floor. She stops in front of Masako. "No," Grace says, "it's not the same thing. And what I'm about to say will prove it." "I know," Grace said, "and I'm still here." The words don't compute. Masako looks up for the first time since her confession began. Grace's face is unreadable in the darkness, Japanese features in American uniform, dual heritage carrying dual pain. "My cousins were captured in the Philippines, 1942, Bataan Death March. 3 started walking, 2 arrived at the camp." Grace's voice stays steady, professional, the voice of someone who has practiced this control. One came home after liberation. The other one's grave is unmarked somewhere in a Japanese military cemetery. Cause of death listed as natural causes. He was 23 and healthy when they took him. 40,000 Allied POWs died in Japanese custody. Starvation, disease, execution, medical experiments. The numbers exist in archives, but archives don't capture the faces, the names, the 23-year-old cousins who walked into camps and never walked out. 0 executions of Japanese POWs in U.S. custody. Different system, different definition of routine. "Kanojo wa watashi tachi o nikumu beki da. Naze nikanai no ka?" She should hate us. Why doesn't she? "I process prisoners every day," Grace continues. "Japanese soldiers who might have guarded my cousin's camp. Japanese nurses who might have assisted in his death. I examine them, treat their wounds, explain their medications in their own language." She kneels beside Masako, eye level. The darkness makes equals of enemies. Because routine means something here. Everyone gets the same stethoscope. Everyone gets the same examination. Everyone gets the same chance. Even when it hurts me to give it, her voice finally breaks, just a crack, quickly sealed. "That's not forgiveness. Forgiveness is above my pay grade. That's procedure. That's the difference between what you did and what we do. Procedure that doesn't change based on who's on the table." Masako's hands are shaking. Guilt tremors. The vibration of consequences finally arriving. "Why are you telling me this?" Grace reaches into her medical bag, pulls out a stethoscope. The same model Corporal Mitchell used during the examination, same metal disc, same rubber tubing. Because I need translators, Japanese-speaking medical personnel who can explain procedures to prisoners so they don't spend their first night thinking they were assaulted. She places the stethoscope in Masako's hands. You know what we did wrong. You know what routine looks like when it means destruction. Maybe you can help explain what routine looks like when it means something else. Masako stares at the metal disc. Cold. Clinical. The same instrument she'd seen used for horror. Your turn to listen, Grace says. October 1946, Tokyo. A Japanese woman places a stethoscope on an American veteran's chest. Just routine, she says. Haruki Nakamura, 23 now, wears a white nurse's uniform in a post-war hospital funded by the American occupation. The veteran on the examination table is 19, private first class, wounded in Okinawa, here for a routine follow-up on shrapnel damage to his left lung. She says the words in English now, learned them properly, understands what they mean. Just routine, same procedure for everyone. Over 4,000 former Japanese POWs worked in Allied medical facilities after the war. Voluntary. Most had experienced American medical care as prisoners and emerged understanding what the words actually meant. Some became nurses, some became doctors, some became translators explaining procedures to Japanese civilians who flinched when American medics approached. Haruki processed 1,100 American patients between 1946 and 1948. Tanjun Natetsuzuki, Ima wa watashi ga sore oyu banda. Just routine. Now it's my turn to say it. The stethoscope around her neck is American-made. Same model from the POW camp. Not the same device. That one went home with Corporal Mitchell when he rotated stateside. But identical. Same cold metal disc, same rubber tubing, same 30-second examination that changed everything she believed about enemies. She keeps the original examination form in her desk drawer, her name in English letters. Height, weight, heart rate recorded by someone who saw her as a patient when she expected to be seen as prey. Yellowed now, edges fraying, proof that routine meant something. The American veteran watches her work. Your English is good, he says. Where'd you learn? POW camp, 1945. American nurse taught me. His expression shifts. Confusion, then understanding. You were on the other side. I was. Silence. The stethoscope presses against his chest. His heartbeat is strong, regular. The shrapnel damage is healing. And now you're doing routine. She removes the earpieces, notes his vitals on the clipboard. Same procedure she experienced, same procedure she now performs. Same stethoscope, same examination. Everyone. The veteran nods slowly. Something passes between them, not forgiveness, not absolution, just acknowledgement. Two people on opposite sides of a war, connected by a metal disc and the word routine. Haruki files his chart, opens the drawer. Her 1945 examination form sits there, waiting, remembering. His hands move toward her chest. She stopped breathing. Now her hands move toward their chests. They don't flinch. Neither does she. Routine isn't just a word. It's a promise.